Hello everybody, I'm Rene Ramos, director of the Lynn and Louis Wolfson II Florida Moving Image Archives, and this is Rewind, the show that looks back on Florida's past with historic film and video. It's time for another trip back into the past, so sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Rewind.
Tonight on Montage.
Dade County Police and Fire. Yes, we need an ambulance. Someone's been shot. Please hurry.
911. 3 numbers that may one day save your life. Or will they?
A human being can make an error at any time. It could happen tonight.
Help your chances of surviving an emergency. And go with Amy Huggins inside 911. The Killing Fields is being hailed as the most powerful film to capture the Vietnam era.
Everything so real and so very hard for me to watch.
Tonight, we'll talk with the actors and their real-life counterparts in this chilling story of human terror. The dog. Yes, man's best friend. A source of comfort and inspiration, even for people like Mayor Ferre and Don Shula.
You ever confide in him? We talk a lot.
Meet some local movers and shakers and the pets that help shape their lives as Ed Hanrahan introduces you to South Florida's top dogs. Plus, Michael Putney fetches the latest scoop in his weekly column. All this and more on tonight's Montage.
Hello, South Florida. Have you warmed up yet? The cold weather causes a lot of problems in our area, and because of it, sometimes people have to call for help using the 911 emergency system. But 911 doesn't always live up to its billing as a lifesaver. You may have read an article recently about a woman who was shot, and rescuers sent by 911 couldn't find her. Amy Huggins is here with an inside look at why 911 does and doesn't work.
There are 4 911 emergency centers in Dade County. The cities of Miami, Miami Beach, and Hialeah each have their own. The calls from outside those areas are answered at Dade County's 911 Emergency Operations Center. The incident Ed just mentioned happened at Miami Center. We spent a night at Dade County's recently so you could better understand how this system really works.
2324, show responding routine.
Dade County Police and Fire.
Yes, someone's been shot.
Dade County Police and Fire.
Yeah, there's a fight on by Carino's restaurant.
Okay, calm down and give me your address.
Hearing just one of those calls might frighten you and me, but it doesn't even faze these people. They're the ones at the other end of the line when you dial 911 for help, and they decide whether or not you get it.
We'll have an officer out there as soon as we can.
They and the 911 system are responsible for saving thousands of lives each year, but the only time you ever hear about them is when something goes wrong.
The only question left tonight seems to be whether a 911 system malfunction kept ambulances and police from getting to the wounded officer quickly.
Some doctors say Miami Beach policeman John Coppin might have survived after accidentally shooting himself last month, but his address did not appear on screens at 911 as it should have. We spent a recent Friday night in Dade County's 911 Nerve Center and out on the road so you could see what happens when you dial 911 and why the system will never be fail-proof.
Calling from Nob Hill West. We need a unit over here as soon as possible. I think there's shots fired.
What address?
10421 North Kendall Drive.
10421 North Kendall Drive?
Uh-huh.
Did you see anything or you just heard
Yeah,
shots
it's my
fired?
roommate and his friend.
What's going on?
I'm not sure. They went outside. They were fooling around and they got a gun. They're police officers.
You would want to call 911?
No,
Oh.
no. I was about to until I recognized them as being police officers. I'm 99% sure one of them was a state trooper.
Apparently 2 friends, one a Miami police officer and the other a Florida highway patrolman, got into a fight. They were both drunk. They ducked behind this apartment door when they saw the camera, not happy someone called 911, and extremely dismayed that fellow officers and the media witnessed their problem.
Well, it's very stressful because it's frustrating, you know, when people call you up. Half the people don't know where they are.
It's not easy answering the 1,900 calls that are received on an average night.
Okay, which direction did you last see them go?
Can you tell me what they were wearing?
Okay, is he breathing? Do you know?
People get upset and say, why are you asking all these questions? And the reason we're asking these questions is we just want to make sure the officer knows what he's getting into.
After all, these are the people who make serious judgment calls about whether or not you need immediate help. And they need as much information as possible in order to make split-second decisions.
You can't judge it on voice. You have to really try to elicit the information from the citizen, and then a lot of times read between the lines, really, what aren't they telling us?
These complaint officers are thoroughly tested, trained, and supervised. But that doesn't mean something can't go wrong. This system has failed 3 times since Dade County's 911 center opened 5 years ago. And in 1980, one of the complaint officers failed to send help to this little girl.
I'm babysitting. Yes, is someone trying to break in my house right now?
Shortly after she made this call, 13-year-old Rena Pollard was raped, then stabbed to death by the man who broke in.
A human being can make an error at any time. These people try not to make errors, but I'm sure it could happen tonight. A piece of equipment could fail, and it could provide we could lose a vital link between a citizen calling for help and our police or fire services.
The people here do their best to help those in need, no matter what the problem. But some of the problems don't always have answers that can be solved by police or fire rescue.
I got super glue on me. And my fingers are stuck together. Did you try soaking them in water or something? She said use something like nail polish remover. They're not coming apart.
Believe it or not, 90% of all calls to 911 are like that. Not life-threatening emergencies at all, but little domestic dramas.
Well, my wife is beating me up again. I have a restraining order, against her.
But do you need an officer to go out there or what?
Yeah, I guess so, because
well, then I need to have your address.
Every time I go out there, she starts beating me up again.
The battered husband's the one in the shorts.
For the last year or so, she's been beating me up.
Okay, did he strike you any tonight?
Yeah, this is where he grabbed me up around.
Strike you? He grabbed you by the neck?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to press charges against him for battering you?
Both husband and wife decided to press charges against each other. After spending about a half hour at this scene, police returned to patrol. Several units answered this call and the other one involving the 2 drunken policemen.
We're going. We've got 315s going.
Okay, did you see who hit him?
The calls for help that our cameras witnessed were answered promptly. But just because you call 911 doesn't mean help will be right there. These complaint officers have no control over how fast the police, firefighters, or paramedics can drive.
People, I think, have the assumption that we're sort of like Columbo, that we not only investigate the crime, but we respond out to the crime and we do everything, but that we only do a little portion of it.
911 really only gives you a quicker access to our service. It doesn't make our service delivery any better. It gives you a faster avenue to us, and that's all it really is.
Dade County Police and Fire. Yes, we need an ambulance and the police. There's just been gunshots fired. Get them here quick. Ma'am, someone's been shot. Yes, someone's been shot. Please hurry.
Amy, once I had to dial 911 before a man who had been stabbed, and rescuers just didn't respond fast enough. Is there anything that the public can do to make this thing work better?
Yeah, there's lots that we can do, and the first is that you want to call 911 when there's a true emergency, when you or a neighbor or somebody's property is in immediate danger. Getting your finger stuck with crazy glue is not an immediate emergency. Be calm and answer all questions. Help is on its way while you're answering. And you might want to mark your phone with your phone number and address. A babysitter or visiting relative might have to make an emergency call from your house, and they don't always have that information, and you yourself might need it if you're excited. And get rid of those bargain basement phones. You don't want to discover that the connection isn't good while you're calling for emergency help. And finally, have your phone lines checked periodically.
Amy, the most important thing you said there is stay calm.
It really is. It's hard to do, but it is the most important thing of all.
Okay, thank you, Amy. We'll be right back.
Coming up, the man that survived the horror of Cambodia and made a film about it. And meet the best friends of some South Florida celebrities.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
War stories are as old as war itself. With the movie The Killing Fields, filmmakers think they have come up with a different twist. Amy Huggins is back with a conversation she had with several people involved in the making of The Killing Fields.
They say that when this place goes up, they think that a lot of people are going to get killed. A lot of people. All right, I've arranged for the evacuation of you and your family. So now it's up to you. What do you want to do? Do you want to stay or do you want to leave?
He decides to stay, a decision that makes for an incredible tale of war, friendship, love, and survival. It's the real-life story of New York Times reporter Sidney Schanberg and his Cambodian interpreter Dith Pran. It takes place during and after the fall of Cambodia in 1975. Schanberg was one of the last Westerners in the country. The victorious and brutal Khmer Rouge allowed him to leave, but would not let Pran go, a move that forced him into a future as a prisoner in a work camp.
Tell my wife I love her and look after all my children. She doesn't speak any English, Sydney. Please, I don't want anyone to be bad to my wife.
It's not easy to watch because, well, especially because this film company, they made so reality on the story.
That's the real Dith Pran. As you can see, he made it out of Cambodia, but only after years of torture and starvation.
Very hard for me to watch. I have to, when it's come to some part that's very tough, I just say I don't want to watch anymore.
Dith Pran is played by HAING, a man who's not an actor at all, but a doctor who was discovered by filmmakers in San Francisco's refugee community. His own horror story is far worse than Dith Pran's. He relived his pain in the movie so others would know what happened in Cambodia. As for his outstanding performance the critics are hailing as Oscar caliber,
that's my experience. I'm not from acting school, but I got my acting school like from Khmer Rouge acting school for 4 years. So enough experience.
While HAING was getting his acting experience, reporter Sidney Schanberg spent 4.5 years searching for Pran, feeling guilty he was unable to help his beloved friend who once saved his life. He also finds The Killing Fields painful to watch.
It is a reminder of traumatic things one has to face. And in other words, you're always going to have to grope and cope with your past. I don't want to put it in a drawer and shut it away. At the same time, I really don't want to take it out every day.
You might find it painful to watch as well. It graphically shows man's inhumanity to man and provides a very real history lesson not often told in school books, and that is
what happens when individuals and nations make decisions about other people, less powerful people, that have consequences no one imagined when they made those decisions.
Those consequences include the death of 3 million Cambodians, nearly half the population, and total destruction of a once peaceful and beautiful country.
Just, I would like to show the world how the Khmer Rouge cruel is in Cambodia since 1925 to 1929.
If talk of violence, politics, governments, and torture scares you away from The Killing Fields, you might want to look at the movie as a simple love story.
I'm Oriental and he's Westerner, and we can work along all together, and we have the same heart, same idea of how to write to let the world know about what the people need. So I think it's a very interesting story.
We'll have more of Montage after you watch this.
Still to come, Peanuts Graham. Does he want his master to move to Washington? And who's at the end of Michael Putney's leash this week?
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
If you've ever owned a dog, you've probably asked yourself on occasion, who's the master here? Ed Hanrahan is on board with a look at a group of dogs who can sometimes put some very influential South Florida owners in the doghouse.
And those dogs' lives ain't all that bad either, Ed. In our attempt to meet and interview them, we did learn some revealing facts about their owners. We also confirmed that while dog companionship can be mostly joy, it is not entirely without sadness.
This cross-section of purebreds and mongrels just happened to be the companions of some influential Floridians. And we found that each dog has different ways of influencing the life of its owner. For example, some are just good listeners.
Attaboy. You ever confide in him?
We talk a lot.
Others have learned to keep a secret. Some pretend they're just an animal.
Do I talk to Taffy? Yeah. No, Ed, I don't think I talk to Taffy.
At least one prefers not to listen at all.
All right, now, listen to me. Hey, come here. Chuckle.
And some are truly understanding.
She's very patient with human beings. She understands that they aren't as smart as dogs.
Sometimes the key to a dog's influence lies in his very own name, what he stands for.
I had a collie when I came down here by the name of Colt. Colt got hit by a car and died a couple of days later. And a friend of mine came over one night with this little puppy and says, now you don't need to keep this if you don't want to. But our kids saw it, and there was no way that we couldn't keep it. We named him Zonk after Larry Zonk, a guy who used to play fullback around here. We didn't know what to name him when he was a baby, but he kept running into everything and knocking it over, so we thought that Zonka would be a good name for him. He also runs away a lot, which reminded me of Zonka in the early years.
Other times, stray dogs like Travis and Raffles gain their influence by choosing a home where they're actually needed.
The dogs mean a lot to me because they don't think I'm ever wrong. They've never disagreed with me in my whole life. They always think I'm the best and that I'm perfect and that I'm wonderful. And everybody, I think, needs a little bit of that. But I think they pick up a little bit of my personality. When I'm anxious, they're anxious. And they're very sympathetic if I'm sick. They'll come and just sort of, on the bed while I'm recuperating. But I think most dogs do that. I try to remember that they are really just dogs.
Of course, there are plenty of people who are afraid of big dogs like mine, but probably because they don't realize what pussycats they really are.
But will you look at this?
Here, I'll get this for you. I won't make it difficult for you, okay?
Is that tiny Shetland sheepdog instilling fear to maintain influence over the owner of this Miami Beach estate? We tried to get auto business tycoon Norman Brayman to explain.
I grew up in a home in Philadelphia without any animals or pets. Therefore, I was never comfortable with them at all. I mean, I always had a built-in fear of dogs and animals in general.
We still weren't satisfied, and we tried without success to get Taffy to tell us how she continued to intimidate this debonair world traveler, collector of exquisite arts. How could gentle Taffy possibly make the head of such a charming household so unsure of his footing? Finally, Norman Brayman confessed.
Because when I come home to the home every day from work, Taffy jumps outside, greets me. All I have to do is touch Taffy, and I act as an instant diuretic.
Whatever. That didn't seem to be the problem at Mayor Maurice Ferre's new home in Coconut Grove.
Do you mind if I ask Choco a couple of questions?
I don't mind at all, and I'm sure he'll give you the right answers, too.
Shall I ask him about Carollo living next door? No. I better keep it simple. What do you contribute to the family?
Well, a lot of fun, and he certainly gets an awful lot of attention. You'd think he was a child. Mercedes and I have 6 children, but this is the 7th. Okay. Now, come here.
While that brought many other questions to mind, we knew the mayor wasn't going to give his chocolate retriever any chance to talk for himself.
We had some real fancy dogs that weren't too smart. They'd all run away. Peanuts was one who ran here. She just kind of appeared at our house in Miami Lakes about 6 or 7 years ago, and we adopted her. She probably has a dozen different breeds in her, but she's a wonderful dog.
Nothing he can say will ever make me move with him to Washington.
So maybe I did dream Peanuts was talking. But most dogs, whether belonging to those important citizens or people like you and me, do have a way of saying plenty, even when not talking. Of course, we humans can do the same when our emotions are involved. Final case in point. My shepherd, Heidi, struck up a friendship with a neighbor, Metro Commissioner Jim Redford's influential Dalmatian, Bernie. Before Christmas, Bernie's liver failed, but I couldn't convince Heidi that Bernie was never coming out to play again. For weeks, my dog insisted on checking out the commissioner's well-kept lawn. Then one day, after Commissioner Redford went off to work, I saw it and knew. As hard as it certainly is to say goodbye to a loyal old friend, sometimes it can be even more difficult to throw away his bowl.
Well, Heidi Hanrahan has joined us on the Montage set. Good-looking animal, Ed.
Thanks. She thinks so, too.
I'm sure she does. You know, when my dog died, I just couldn't bear to go out and get another one. Yet I hear that when a loved dog dies, you're supposed to run out and get another dog.
Ed, I think it depends on the relationship, the original relationship, why you had the dog in the first place. I know when my old dog, Gretel, was dying, I did a story about her for television in Baltimore. And a cameraman in the state police found and brought to me a dog that had been abandoned in the mountains of western Maryland. And it was Heidi, Miss Heidi, and she and I fell in love, instant love affair, but it might not have been. And that could have been very sad for both of us.
I think I get the message, Ed. Okay, thank you. Don't go away.
Next week on Montage, the murder rate is climbing in South Florida. Will 1985 be a return to Dodge City?
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
Michael Putney returned this week from covering the inauguration in Washington. Where better to get some grist for his mill, which we happen to call Michael Putney's column.
Ed, I got plenty of grist in Washington, and I didn't get splinters in my seat, which might have happened to you last Sunday at Stanford Stadium if it hadn't been for these cushions provided by Apple Computer. Not even these could cushion the outcome. But the point is, if a relic like Stanford Stadium is good enough for the Super Bowl, why isn't the Orange Bowl good enough? Because Joe Robbie doesn't want it there. That's why maybe Joe will hand these out next season at the Orange Bowl with Maurice Ferre's face on them. As for the Washington grist, the mill grinds very fine these days at Radio Marti.
Radio Marti, programa de servicio para Cuba de la...
Now, Radio Marti isn't really on the air yet. This is just a dry run. And it'll still be running dry on Monday, which is Jose Marti's birthday, and the day some Radio Marti supporters had hoped to start blasting Fidel Castro. But despite $25 million and more than a year to get ready, they're not. We took these pictures last week, the first time they ever let anyone in to see Radio Marti. Unfortunately, there's not a lot to see or hear.
Congressman Claude Pepper doesn't hear so well, and his eyesight is a bit blurry, but not his thinking. He remembers Franklin Roosevelt as clearly as he remembers Ronald Reagan.
I have a letter that I wrote December 22nd, 1928 to Mr. Franklin D. Roosevelt in New York, who wrote me a letter as a member of the State Democratic Executive Committee and said, what do you think the future of the Democratic Party should be? And I sat down in my little law office at Perry, Florida, December 22nd, 1928. And I wrote this, Mr. Franklin D. Roosevelt, that I thought the Democratic Party should select him.
Are you looking forward to the inauguration on January 20th, 1989 of a Democratic president?
Yes, I certainly am.
And at the rate he's going, he just may be there. From an old face to a new face, State Representative Al Gutman. We called him one of our baby-faced lawmakers in a recent Montage profile. Well, this week, Representative Gutman sent us this press release advertising his presence at a groundsbreaking to rebuilt Southwest 7th Street. I hope Representative Gutman takes more care when he writes our laws. I'm Michael Putney.
Thanks, Michael. Those are all the scenes we have time to show you from this week's montage. Be with us again next week for more. I'm Ed Odell. Have a great week.
That's about it for this edition of Rewind. Just time to remind you that Rewind features historical film and video from the Lynn and Lewis Wolfson II Florida Moving Image Archives. To see more from the Wolfson Archives collections, visit our website, wolfsonarchives.org. You can search the archives catalog and watch video online. And be sure to connect to our YouTube channel, where you will find hundreds of carefully curated clips, or link to the Wolfson Archives Facebook page to keep up with our busy calendar of historical happenings. Until next time, I'm Rene Ramos. Thanks for watching.